Namaste, dear listeners. Welcome to the Iowa channel, Astro In with Abhi, Oneness in Astrology and Spirituality, bringing in awareness by Abhi. So, here's a question. Abhi, please can you elaborate on how to free myself? How do I free myself? Okay, so I kind of understand what this person is asking. It's a better way of saying how do I get myself out of the matrix system, or how do I come out of illusion, or what is the awakening? These are pretty much the same kind of questions or statements. They all will be answered by this podcast. So I'd like to explain this very simply. As a piece of life, what we are just a piece of life. We are life. In fact, we are just life. And life based on conditioning as a child, um, going to school and then campus. If fortunate enough, you've been to campus, then you get to work and then you end up in relationships, and then there's social media, there's the television, there's the radio, there's people. There's so much of mental conditioning that's happening. Conditioning means to fill up your mind with information, and that information, depending on what you hold on to, you start to take the shape of such, which we call as, in inverted commas, life. And here I'm referring to our belief systems, our thought patterns. I'm referring to addictions. There's so much of things that we are gathering every second, knowingly and unknowingly, which we then call, we then say, this is who we are. This is who we've become. Okay, this is who we've become from what? This is who I've become from a child. Okay, so what was I when I was a child? Well, I was a child in a very small body. But was the spirit a child? That's the question. Was the spirit the child? The spirit is never the child. The spirit is spirit in a child's body. However, the mind is kind of pure at that moment, very innocent. The mind starts to take on information, and it's the mind that builds up on this information which guides the spirit. In this case here, in most cases, most of us, where we've allowed our minds to guide us as spirit, and therefore we've accumulated so much of information regarding our own selves, that we have been leading ourselves through the mind in a dimension of uneasiness, in a dimension of chaos. Now, my explanation is coming from awareness, Abhi. How do I free myself from this? So we've now established that the mind is the most important factor that we need to work on. The thought patterns, the beliefs, the religious views, the religion itself, all these things that we do, what we think, how life should be. We build our lives on these things, and it brings us misery. So to free yourself from this here, basically, it's very simple. It means to free the mind. Once the mind is dissolved, remember, as a child, we've put in so much information on the mind. That same information we are now suffering. So we need to dissolve that information. We need to dissolve the logic. So the awakening, or the realization, comes in when the mind is no longer leading the spirit, when the mind is dissolved. The mind has to be dissolved to realize our true nature. Because we are using the mind all the time, we are very far away from who we are. Yet we think we are near, or we are who we are. We are never the mind. If you dissolve the mind over a considerable period of time, and if you create such a distance between you and the mind, you will realize that The mind is just a tool that we use to put in whatever we want to. We have control, actually, of what we want to put in the mind and what we don't want to put in the mind. But we have been taught from a child that the mind is something that we gotta use in every event of our life. We must use our brains. We must use our mind. But let me tell you something. The more you use your mind, the more anxious you will become. The more sleepless nights you will have. Look, and this has got nothing to do with somebody's asking you a question, what's 1 plus 1? Obviously, you got to answer it's 2. I'm not talking about that kind of mind. I'm talking about the belief systems, the beliefs, the goods, the bads, what you think is good, what you think is bad. All of these, these things that we put in our head from the time we were in school till the time we are now, where we are now, there's a lot of things that we have put in our mind that has shaped us into who we are, which is the very same reason why we are very much uneasy. And uneasy means a mind that has a lot of traffic. So to unravel that, to break away from the traffic, to dissolve that mind, it means to dissolve that mind. That mind needs to be dissolved like salt to water. I always share this in all my podcasts, in most of my podcasts. There is no awakening when the mind is at play. There is no realization when the mind is at play. The realization is when there is no mind. And meditation is for me personally, meditation is the best way to create that space between you and the mind. And once you have that space between you and the mind, you are actually a witness as to where your mind is going. This is where you will break away from thought patterns. This is where you start breaking away from belief systems. This is where you start breaking away from traditions. You start breaking away from the masses and you start seeing things for exactly what it is. And it's not a very easy process. This is where it gets difficult, because here you can be easily classified as the black sheep. You'll be the odd one out because you now can see everything for what it is, and most of the people cannot. But this is where the beauty comes in. You start to realize the chaos that you have been in, and you have the full potential now and the energy to be at peace. Now, I hope this answers the question. I will do a separate podcast on how to actually meditate, and I will put it on my channel. So, Om Namah Shivaya, Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Shri Ram. God bless you all.